Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Thursday. A lot more cloud cover. Got some showers that are out in the offshore waters. A little more rain that's going to be coming in. Hopefully, we're going to hold here for a high temperature at 90. That's our current temperature right now, and that's the forecast high. Betting on those clouds to kind of filter things and maybe get some showers in here to hold us with that high of 90 after the last couple of days that we were soaring our way into the mid and even upper 90s in some cases, and those heat index values were quite high. So we do have a lot of rain that's going to be drifting off toward the west. Not necessarily widespread heavy rain, but there will be some heavy downpours here and there. And it looks like most of the heavy stuff is going to stay out in the offshore waters. But we're going to watch out for another wave that might come in here about a week from today. Same direction, believe it or not. And we'll look even farther out into the Atlantic going out in the next couple of weeks here down the road, a little bit farther down in the show here. So again, we'll start out. We've actually got partly to mostly cloudy skies here in Lafayette. 90 degrees, the latest check of the temperature over at Lafayette Regional with a heat index of 105. Wow, that dew point is 79, so that's indication of that tropical moisture starting to surge in here. I know those dew points have been pretty high, but they were running about 75, 76. You push these up to 79, 80, and you really got a juicy atmosphere. Humidity 71%, light breeze out of the north at 7, and the pressure right now at 30.03. So let's take a look at the radar real quick and just kind of give you a tour. For the most part, the Acadiana region is rain-free. The exceptions are down here right along the coast and points offshore. We've got some new thunderstorms that are kind of firing up here off to the east. This is looking at the Hammond radar right now, and you can see how everything's kind of drifting off toward the west. So with those rains developing there along the 55 corridor there in Tangipahoa, that's going to be kind of pushing off toward the west, toward the capital city, and eventually over the basin if it holds together. And then you've got a little bit of extra energy there down over parts of Lafourche Parish too. Let's pull up the Lake Charles radar just for fun. And again, there's not a whole lot over our region, but if we're going to see some new development, it's probably going to be in this particular area, and then it's going to kind of drift off toward the west-southwest. So right now, it looks like that the areas of St. Martin, Iberia, and St. Mary will probably end up with the most amount of rain, at least according to the models that we have here, between now and Saturday. So let's take that one down, and you can see that the rain also extends along the Gulf Coast of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. This is all part of this kind of tropical wave inverted trough that's going to be drifting west. And at this point, it doesn't look like we're going to have any tropical development, but it will produce a significant amount of rain, especially in areas south of the I-10 corridor. So just a quick tour. Again, a lot of cloud cover here in Lafayette and also over in Breaux Bridge and Henderson. It's starting to get a little hazy out there. A little more sunshine the farther inland you go. So Opelousas, you're getting some peaks of sun still. And Alexandria, you folks up there still might hit the low to mid 90s with a bit more sunshine before any clouds or showers and thunderstorms come your way. And as far as the offshore waters, things are going to be getting a little rougher out there. I know it doesn't look too bad with those winds and seas, but with those scattered showers and thunderstorms that are going to start to work their way off toward the west with this inverted trough and tropical wave, conditions are going to be going downhill. So boating is not going to be too great, except for maybe the far western waters today. And then as we go into Friday, I think we're going to see some widespread rains out there. Taking a tour along the Gulf Coast, a little more cloud cover there at Panama City Beach. Very dark skies there, looking off toward the east from Orange Beach, Alabama. And we've got a little rain falling this afternoon over on Dauphin Island and over toward Cocodrie, looking off toward the east. Looks like you got some showers and thunderstorms out there too. And then farther to the west, those clouds still broken over southeastern portions of Texas. So it's going to be a while before those bigger clouds come in, I think, for Galveston and parts of southeast Texas. You folks are going to be dealing with more of the rain Saturday and Sunday, while here in Acadiana, it's going to be more from this afternoon through probably the mid part of the day on Saturday. So it really stands out there over the northern Gulf, and got a little question earlier about troughs and inverted troughs and tropical waves, and I'll try to kind of explain this a little bit without this drag or this particular telestrator that I have here that doesn't like to work. Normally, when we look at low pressure areas, let's just, for example, you get a low pressure area that's out here over the middle part of the country, and then that trough of low pressure kind of usually drags out like that. So, what's different about an inverted trough, and this is pretty common here when we have tropical type of systems, is you have the low there, but the trough of low pressure actually rides upward, like more like that. So you, rather than having a traditional type of front or a trough below the front, it's inverted. So your trough is kind of above like that. So that's why it's called an inverted trough, but there's a lot of tropical moisture. So I guess technically we could call this tropical wave as well. Before we focus on everything there, I want to take a real quick tour elsewhere around the Caribbean and the Atlantic. There's Central America. You got a flare up of some storms there off the Panamanian and the Costa Rican coast. I don't know if you were here earlier in the week, but this particular area is a tropical wave. That's actually part of 94L that was out here east of the Windward Islands earlier in the week. And then you got a tropical wave there. Looks like another tropical wave kind of coming in to the Caribbean and farther out in the Atlantic. You can see there's a number of tropical waves out there. But at this point, we're not seeing anything that looks like it's going to develop. This next wave, though, that's coming off the African coast here, way out to the east, might be rumbling some things out in the models during the extended period. And we'll kind of look at the extended full Atlantic basin outlook going out for the next 10 to 15 days here in just a minute. But as far as any tropical weather, the National Hurricane Center is still monitoring the northern Gulf Coast, although the chances for development are pretty much slim to none. But it will continue to be monitored. And right now it looks like this is going to be a rainmaker. But as I was talking about yesterday, occasionally some of these can swirl out some kind of little eddy that can be just really quickly develop into a tropical system. And one of those examples was Hurricane Umberto that was back in 2007 that kind of was an inverted trough drifting off toward the west, but then it, spun up pretty quick and it went from a 30-mile-per-hour tropical type of low to a Category 1 hurricane with 90-mile-per-hour winds making landfall at High Island, Texas in less than 24 hours. So some folks were caught off guard along the northeastern coast there of Texas. But again, that was back in 2007. And it's not the only system that really whipped up very, very quick. So let's go ahead and focus in here on the northern Gulf. And again, we've got what's called an inverted trough. So I would say about right there, you got a bit of a low pressure area. And then that trough kind of extends off toward the north. And all of this is going to be moving its way off toward the west over the next 24 to 36 hours. So we're already starting to see more cloud cover over southeastern Louisiana, and that's helping us out with our temperatures. Then you got the thunderstorms out here in the offshore waters, pretty good blow up of thunderstorms here south of Vermilion Bay, and then you've got a little more energy that's a little bit farther toward the southwest. There's also an upper trough that's kind of moving in tandem with this. It's out over here south of Cuba, but again, it's a counterclockwise spin that you would normally see like with tropical systems, but the difference with this is it's way up high in the atmosphere, and whenever you're going to have tropical weather, it's got to be down along the surface, right on the water surface. So that's an upper low, and that's really what is going to be steering this inverted trough along the northern Gulf Coast westward over toward Texas over the next several days. And there's an even closer view. Got some big thunderstorms there from Apalachicola stretching westward to around Pensacola. And again, a lot of this is in the offshore waters. You were able to see that on some of those webcams there. So on land so far, things have not been too bad, and I think we're going to continue to see the bulk of the action staying out over the Gulf waters. So we're just going to look at the next 7 days and just kind of focus on this one wave as it moves off toward the west, but I also want to point out that there might be another one. So we'll start that over, and you see the rains kind of drifting west over into Texas, and then we've got kind of a ridge that backs in for a few days next week, and then look at that. Yep, another inverted trough or tropical wave could be working its way west along the northern Gulf Coast as we head into the latter part of next week. So we've been kind of stuck in this pattern. We had 93L last weekend. We've got this trough that's moving west to this weekend. And then unfortunately, the timing looks like the next one is going to come in sometime late next week into next weekend. Euro model, I'll go ahead and let this start over too. Again, the next 7 days, you see good rains over much of Louisiana and the Gulf waters. And then that moves off toward the west. Get a little bit more of a ridge of high pressure to build in. So I think next week things are going to be kind of hot. And then Also on the Euro, you see a little action working its way westward there over Florida as we head into the middle part of next week. And I'll tell you, the Canadian is almost exactly the same. Fortunately, none of the models are forecasting any tropical development, except for a couple of the high resolution models that aren't as trustworthy. But the global models right now are just basically showing low pressure kind of drifting off to the west. Icon might be trying to form a closed low, but it's pretty inconclusive there. So I'll say the four global models are really going with just a rain event here between now and Sunday. So let's look at the model data when it comes to how much rain is going to fall. And it's a lot of these are pretty close, and they go anywhere between about 1 and 3 inches of rain for the immediate Acadiana area and points southeast. And then the farther northwest you go, the rainfall totals are a little bit less. There's the Euro model, again, looking about maybe 1 to 2 over most of Acadiana with some 3 to 4 inch totals there out in the offshore waters. Canadian models, the same. Acadiana, about 1 to 2 inches of rain. Some pockets of 2 to 4 here and there that look more a little more isolated. And then the Icon model keeps pretty much all the heavy stuff out in the offshore waters, with most of Acadiana picking up between 1 and 2 inches of rain, which we can handle that. That's not going to be much of an issue. If we get 1 to 3 inches of rain over a 3-day period, we've had it's a little bit of drying out here for the last couple of days. It's been very hot too. So most of the rivers and bayous have been able to drop a bit. And we're also going to be able to see the ground be able to soak up some of this again too after the heavy rains we had about a week ago. Did want to just real quick go over the GFS since it is the one that goes out the farthest. This is where we are right now. I just wanted to show you more as we look out through time here over the Atlantic basin. I'll just continue to just kind of advance it. And there's a little bit of a low. You see that there just to the east of the Windward Islands. So the GFS, this is August the 1st, is showing maybe a wave that could get organized, but then it kind of fizzles as it goes into portions of the Caribbean. And then after that, there's a couple of lows that move out over parts of the Atlantic. At this point, those are probably lows that would run right along a front. If they become tropical, I don't think we're going to have to worry about those. Bermuda might be a little concerned about that. But as we go into the first week of August, in fact, the GFS, we're going to take this all the way to the end here. And the GFS goes out to August 8th. Looks like maybe a little bit of a trough could be along the northern Gulf Coast. But again, that's 16 days out. So really can't trust that. But if we kind of go back and forth here, you can see there's really not a lot out over the Atlantic basin here over the next week and a half to 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll be in good shape there. Water temperatures are way up, especially off the Louisiana coastline, which is kind of that concern as that trough or a low pressure area moves over those extremely warm waters. That's why, you kind of got to watch out for the possibility of something to whip up like a Umberto did. Not likely by any means, but it could happen. And when we look at these water temperatures that are so extreme here over the Gulf, that's going to be an issue farther down the road as we get into August and September, because we start to see a little bit more of these tropical waves or tropical disturbances moving over areas where we've got some very warm waters and also some very high heat content. So those 80-degree waters go pretty deep across the eastern Gulf where the loop current is, and then Yucatan Channel and much of the Western Caribbean. So that's a little bit of a worry when you show some lows, let's say maybe getting into August, crossing over the Windward Islands, perhaps getting into the Caribbean. That's where you're going to start to really get some interesting model solutions farther down the road. And that's, of course, when we start to get a little bit more nervous when anything wants to try to cross over parts of the Caribbean or maybe work its way back here through the Yucatan Channel. So at this point, we don't have anything to worry about there. And the wind shear out over those areas is quite strong too. And there's a lot of Saharan dust to go along with it. So again, we're just going to be looking at a rain event locally for the next couple of days. Might see another inverted trough kind of throw its way westward along the Gulf Coast about this time next week. So I would expect a rainy weekend this weekend, and I would kind of prepare for a rainy, at least end of the week next week, if not that upcoming weekend. But the global tropics hazard outlook for that following week does keep things a little more active there along the northern Gulf Coast, as well as the western Atlantic, which is right in there for where we get a little bit more development during the month of August. If you were with us and you saw what we see in July, which is this is where we see most of our tropical systems during the month of July, but then when we turn the page to August, you can see there's a lot more of the Atlantic basin that is open for business. And of course, we start to head toward the peak of the hurricane season there on September the 10th. And locally, we usually can't let our guard down now until about the third week in October, sometimes the fourth week in October. And as we saw back in 2024, well into November, which was a bit unusual. So hopefully we'll have a shorter hurricane season, and hopefully we won't have too much coming in our direction. Well, I hope you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics. I sure enjoy visiting with my friends every day. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those notifications. You can also hear my forecast throughout the day on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And in between, you can follow my social media pages for any updates, both on Facebook and X. And thanks to all my new subscribers right here on Acadiana Weather Today. I'm meteorologist Dave Baker. Have yourself a great Thursday, and I'll see you on Friday morning to kick off the weekend.